Back Nation. What is good? It is your boy DJ with Running Back Philly. No frauds, no fanboys, no intros. Yeah. Had a good weekend, man. Had a good weekend. Not thinking about the Philadelphia 76ers. It was a good one, man. Listen, I want to let you know this episode of Running Back Philly is brought to you by Factor Meals. Fresh cooked meals at your doorstep for as little as $11 a meal. That's cheaper than pulling up to the McDonald's drive-thru, baby. Go to factormeals.com/runitback50. Use the promo code runitback50 for 50% off your first box at factormeals.com. Drop the T. Drop the T. Yeah, what's going on, everybody? How you feeling, man? How you feeling? There's a couple things we got to talk about today. And we're going to be doing this right here every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all summer long. Even if there's just a couple things we want to talk about, even if there's an opinion piece, whatever it is, man. We'll be right here at 12 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all summer long. Thursday nights and Friday nights, I'm going to try to keep doing, collab shows with other creators, maybe some call-in shows on certain topics, things like that. But thanks for being here. Everybody hit the like button, man. Close out the chat. Hit the like button. Us YouTubers, content creators, we give you free content. If you're at work, if you're at school, wherever you are, listening, watching, tuning in, it's absolutely free for you. All we ask is that you close out the chat one time and hit the like button. Yeah. Carmelo Anthony retired. Carmelo Anthony announced his retirement after 19 NBA seasons. I already thought the dude was retired for 2 years, to be totally honest with you. And it made me immediately think of the TJ McConnell game winner against the New York Knicks when the Sixers were the tanking Sixers. When there was no hope for our franchise whatsoever, kind of like there's about to be no hope for our franchise whatsoever. But, during the tanking years, the Sixers upset the New York Knicks, and TJ McConnell hits a game winner over Carmelo Anthony. And he officially retired. Yeah, I thought he was retired for 5 years too, man. What is up? Let's do 5 takes from the chat. 5 takes from the chat before we get into the business. Gustavo, thanks for being a member of the channel. Pope Platinum Beats, thanks for being a member of the channel. Joel Embiid has never been coached. That's a good take, man. That's a good take. You know what I mean? Joel Embiid picked up a basketball when he was 15 years old. And realistically taught himself how to play the game. When he was over in Cameroon, Africa, Luke Baamute is the one that, kind of discovered him, also from Cameroon, Africa, and, put him on to NBA scouts and things like that. He was taught, how to do certain things. Obviously, he was coached by trainers and things like that. Here's how you do a drop step. Here's how you do a dream shake fadeaway, all that kind of stuff. But realistically, when it comes down to how to win in the NBA, when it comes down to how to get to the next level, when it comes down to how to manage yourself for the fourth quarter, manage yourself for the end of a season, when it comes down to, just what it really takes outside of just the skills, because we know Joel Embiid is insanely skilled. Yeah, I agree. He's never actually been coached. You look at Brett Brown, who just was here after the tanking years and just let everybody do whatever the hell they want, let Ben Simmons do whatever the hell he want, was kind of scared to say anything. I think that's because he was more so the yes man for the men upstairs. And then you brought in Doc Rivers, who we thought was going to be like more of an accountable kind of guy and hold players to a certain standard, but it seems like he was more buddy-buddy than Brett Brown was. And it doesn't seem like, the Doc Rivers team ever really practiced. Did they ever really have any film sessions? Some of those, even like, you would get into the biggest, most important games in the playoffs and just see some mistakes made by the team that were like how are you making these mistakes this far into this process? You know, two players in the same corner running into each other, or just dumping the ball to Joel and having absolutely no movement outside of that whatsoever. No cuts, no back screens, no pin downs, no creativity at all. So then you're like, yeah, I would assume that you're right. Joel wasn't really coached, you know, so somebody like a Nick Nurse, you know, could be big time for Joel Embiid. Joel doesn't need any development, you know, as a player, from a skill perspective. Maybe he still does as a passer, but you know, being almost 30 years old, it's like how much time is left for him to develop certain things. But a good, experienced, strategic coach like a Nick Nurse could maybe take Joel Embiid to the next level. So we're going to talk about that. Q Sims, what up, man? Thanks for being a member of the channel. DJ, remember Glenn said they practiced for the double big lineup all morning, and they got smoked. Doc Rivers got out-coached by Joe Mazzulla. Literally, Joe Mazzulla made one adjustment the whole series. The whole series, Joe Mazzulla made one adjustment. I'm going to play Robert Williams next to Al Horford to continue to stop Joel Embiid and continue to force James Harden to do somersaults into the lane and not get foul calls. And Doc Rivers had no answer. Mazzulla made one adjustment. Doc Rivers had no answer whatsoever. And that's just really funny to think about. That's just really funny to think about. And now Joe Mazzulla is coaching against a real seasoned veteran, winning culture, winning mindset coach with some cojones, who's not afraid to bench a $90 million player, who's not afraid to bench a 37-year-old who looks like he doesn't have it anymore. And they're absolutely smacking around the Boston Celtics. So yeah, that's wild. That's wild, bro. That's wild. That's wild. 3 more takes in the chat. 3 more. Frank Santana. Embiid needs to be second to Maxie like Shaq took the backseat to Wade. Peyton told him, let youngin' take us there, big fella. Embiid needs to be second to Maxie. You see, that's where my fear is with this team where we stand right now. Because I think I agree that Joel Embiid needs to be second to somebody. Joel Embiid needs to be a number 2 to a perimeter player, an elite all-star level perimeter player who can make things happen on the perimeter to take pressure off him. I do agree. You know, I've gotten to that point where you can't just run the game through Joel Embiid, let the other team triple team him on the block and hope for the best. I do agree with that. I just don't know if it's Tyrese Maxey yet. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's Tyrese Maxey yet. That scares me. If Maxey was 25, going into his age 26 season, something like that, I would have a lot more confidence in that. He's just young. He has a lot to work on as far as confidence, leading a team, directing an offense, things like that. So we'll see, man. I would love for Maxey to take that leap. He's taken 2, pretty big leaps so far in his career. So we all shouldn't be shocked if it does happen, but you know what it is, man. Thanks for the comment. Darak with God. What up, man? Do you know how bad Doc have to be after seeing how Eric is thoroughly out-coaching Joe? The Sixers franchise is sad, bro. It's a loser environment. Well, we got Doc out of here, so that's a good thing. There's a lot of things that still need to be worked on, but yeah, Doc Rivers was a major problem. He was just a major speed bump in the situation, like it wasn't going anywhere with Doc Rivers. And we said that last offseason. It was going nowhere with Doc Rivers. We said that last offseason. They sold it to us again. We went into that season like, we know this is going nowhere, bro. You know what I mean? And for me and for others that cover the team as a content creator, I had to sit up here and try to be excited about this team that I had actually no excitement for. I had to really search. I was excited about Maxie's development. I was excited about maybe if Joel's healthy, things like that. But realistically, I was done with that. I was done with the Doc Rivers-led team last offseason. And we went a whole season, lying to ourselves. We knew it wasn't going to happen. We knew exactly what was going to happen in the playoffs. That's the craziest part about it. He became so predictable. You could literally watch it happen in real time and predict it, bro. They were up by 4 points with 4 minutes left in Game 6. They were 4 minutes away from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2001. And we should have known. The collapse was just inevitable. And another epic collapse by a Doc Rivers-led team. So they got him out of here, man. They got him out of here, so that's a good step number one. That's a good step number one. Presidential Mike. Joel has too many miles on his body. Trade him now before his body breaks down or he has a major regression. We have no assets to rebuild after him. Bro, we're in a pickle. We are in a pickle. It's such a polarizing dynamic because Joel Embiid is almost 30 years old. He is 7 feet 2, 275 pounds. He does have recurring knee issues, foot issues, MCL, LCL, or just freak injury here or there. But he only started playing basketball at 15. You know what I mean? So it's like his age is much more than his basketball development time and learning time. So it's like they're not going to trade Embiid. I'm telling you right now, it ain't going to happen. I said blow it up too, but it's not going to happen. The owners are not going to do that. You need they're in the business of selling tickets, So what they're going to do, and this should have been easily predictable, is they're going to fire the coach. They're going to bring in somebody new, and they're going to sell to the fan base. Okay, now we have a coach who's going to get this, and this done, and this team's going to look different. That's just what's going to happen. Whether it's the right thing or not, that's absolutely what's going to happen. But yeah, Joel's age and his basketball development time are not the same thing. So, it kind of sucks because when he's at his peak of maybe knowing the game of basketball and, having what it takes to get to the next level, he might be at an age that's already past that on an NBA level. I don't know. You know what I mean? That would suck. That would suck, dude. That would suck. All right. Thanks for the takes, man. And thanks for joining the show. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and hit the like button. Let's get into the business, man. Look, I put out the quick video earlier about James Harden's potential $200 million contract, okay? And because Brian Windhorst said that, and I couldn't find the clip of him saying this, there's just tweets from the NBA Central and everyone else that Brian Windhorst said that there is an appetite around the league, which is, for Brian Windhorst to use the word appetite as a metaphoric adjective. If you get that, you get that. But yeah, there's an appetite around the league for a James Harden $200 million contract. I guess the first thing I want to say is that $50 million a year for an NBA player isn't as crazy as that used to be. Okay? That's not as crazy as it used to be. Because in the next 5 years, players are going to be making 60. Players are going to be making 70. You know what I mean? That's just the way it's going. As the NBA grows and makes more and more money, the salary cap keeps going up and up and up. The players are going to make more money. The Sixers absolutely can't pay James Harden $50 million a year. They can't. They can't do it. They can't do it. They got to get off the Tobias books. They got to get off a lot of things. They got to fix a lot of things. They can't. They absolutely cannot pay James Harden $50 million a year. But I think a team will. I think a team will pay James Harden $50 million a year. And I think that that's what James Harden wants. And that's what he's going to get. That's why he opted out. And he's going to get $50 million a year. Because it depends on what a team... It depends how a team really looks at it. James Harden's not going to give you a 45-point triple-double 4 games in a playoff series to win you a playoff series anymore. He's not that level of player. Teams know he's not that level of player anymore. With 12 days of rest, he dropped 45. And then he dropped 42 going back to Boston with a couple days rest. He still has it once in a while, but realistically, he's not going to give you that night in and night out because he flat out, he's 33, almost 34 years old, and he's not exactly a fitness guru, okay? But other teams are going to look at it like he's an elite facilitator. He's an elite half-court floor general, and he is, and he still is. And if somebody like the Houston Rockets wanted to look at it, they would say James Harden can not only sell us tickets this upcoming season and put people in the seats and bring people back to the arena, James Harden can elevate our young players to a different level than they're at right now. So if they were looking at, Jalen Green, Jabari Parker Jr., Parker Jr., what's his first name? I forget. I think I just said his name wrong, but you know what I mean. If they look at it like that, then they could say James Harden can get more out of these young guys. It would be great to have him on the floor as a veteran NBA player who's been through the trenches, who's had multiple all-star level seasons. And I could see the Houston Rockets wanting to do that. And they have plenty of cap space to do it. I could see it happening. I can't see the Sixers doing it. It is Daryl Morey. He is absolutely obsessed with James Harden. But there's a couple reasons I guess that I don't see the Sixers doing it. The first reason is James Harden stated, apparently, rumored, but sources told sources, that James Harden wants a 4-year, $200 million contract on a team that is a contender and that will give him the basketball freedom that he wants. That could mean two things. Was he just saying that under Doc Rivers, right? Because clearly he didn't want to be under Doc Rivers anymore. There's the feeling that James Harden is the one that got Doc Rivers up out of here. I think James Harden hated Doc Rivers' system. And so is him saying, I want the basketball freedom, just saying, I don't want Doc Rivers. I want a coach that's going to play around me. Or is that him saying, I don't want to play with Joel Embiid? Because the basketball freedom, when James was in Houston, did not include a ball-dominant scoring center like a Joel Embiid. It included rim runners and three-point shooters that he could run up and down the floor and drop dimes left and right, but it was all about James Harden. So, him saying, I want the basketball freedom could also be him saying, I don't want to be forced next to a guy that I have to force the ball to as a second option. Now, this is good because there's a couple layers to that. Here's another layer. I want to show you right here on statmuse.com. Because I want to remind you what James Harden's first 4 games in a Sixers uniform looked like. And I want to ask you something. Did James Harden look like this because he was not yet playing under Doc Rivers' system? And then once Doc Rivers' system was implemented, did that change everything? Which is like, should I sit here and convince myself that the Sixers should re-sign Harden because without Doc, he's going to look like this? Because this is what the general consensus is. This is what the general opinion is of those first 4 games that he played in a Sixers uniform. Look at these games, bruh. 225-22. In 35 minutes, he had 27 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists on 58% from the floor and 71% from three-point range for a plus 35 And I remember that game, man. And we were so high. We were like, this looks amazing. This guy is so good at basketball. He was just out there diming left and right, behind the back, over the head to Joel, over to Maxie, over to Tobias. It looked so good. Of course it collapsed because that's what happens to us as Sixers fans, but it looked so good. This Knicks game right here, game number 2 in a Sixers uniform, 29 points, 10 rebounds, 16 assists. 42% from 3, 57 from the field for a plus 19. And I remember that game. It was a Sunday afternoon game. We were so hype. I did the post-game live after that game. We had like over 1,000 people live in the stream. I was like, the Sixers are great. James Harden is great. James Harden made my YouTube channel great. And everything was great. So part of the thing is, did Doc Rivers then come in and say, okay, James, here's the playbook. Here's the pecking order. You know what I mean? Here's how we're going to play. We're not going to play like that. We're going to play like this. And then Doc Rivers' system was implemented and everything went south. Is that a possibility? That's all I'm saying. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. Is it possible that James Harden absolutely can still play like this, but Doc Rivers' system was the problem? Or was it that James Harden was well rested because he hardly played the season before for the Brooklyn Nets, had a whole offseason of rest, got traded sat out the first half of the season with Brooklyn, got traded, and then just had a whole bunch of energy and went bam, 27-12, 29-16, 26-9, 25-11. And then everything caught up to him and he burned out because he wasn't actually in great shape. You let me know. Carlos Rosado, what's up, man? Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for supporting the channel. Eastwood, salute. I was just at Burlington Coat Factory and they had a whole rack of James Harden t-shirts on clearance. Yeah, he's not the most popular player in the city at this current moment. Lone Trout, can Jaden Springer develop into a legit piece with the right coach? Always hated that Glenn never gave the youth any run. Lone Trout, what's up, man? Thanks for that question. 100% yes. 100% yes. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Jaden Springer not being used on this team in his second year in the NBA was a crime. It was a criminal offense. It really was. You look around the league, you got all kinds of players 19, 20, 21 years old contributing. You don't need that player to be a star. You don't need that player to be some kind of veteran leader. But you can use that player's skill set. He has size, he has strength, he's a great one-on-one defender. He can handle the ball, he can get to the rim. His three-point shot has improved like crazy. He dropped 40-plus points in a game to get the Blue Coats to the G League Finals, and then he was Finals MVP in the championship game. So nobody could tell me that for 10 minutes a game, Jaden Springer couldn't have been valuable. He should have been out there. He absolutely should have been out there. And yes, a different coach can get a lot more out of Jaden Springer. I 100% believe that. I think a different coach could have got a lot more out of Matisse Thybulle. I think a different coach can get a lot more out of Jalen McDaniels, out of Paul Reed, out of Daniel House Jr., out of DeAnthony Melton. I really think that. I really do think that. So I am excited to see all of these guys under a different coach. We'll just see what it looks like, man. We will just see what it looks like. But yeah, that's my take on the James Harden thing. Now, we got to talk about Nick Nurse. The Sixers are interviewing Nick Nurse this week. Obviously, they didn't say like what time they're interviewing Nick Nurse, anything like that. But they are interviewing Nick Nurse this week. And I think probably Nick Nurse is the best candidate for the job. I definitely think that. And I got 2 articles here that we're going to go over that kind of go in depth a little bit on Nick Nurse. And one of them is from a Toronto Raptors insider, which is, good good insight from somebody who's watched Nick Nurse coach the team and watched all of the things that he does or doesn't do. And so we're going to get that opinion also. But before we do that, I got to tell you about Factor Meals. Factor Meals is sponsoring this stream. Factor Meals is a food delivery service that delivers fresh cooked meals to your doorstep for as little as $11 a meal. Are you too busy to cook this May? With Factor, skip the trip to the grocery store, skip the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat it up and enjoy it. Then get back outside and soak up the warm weather. Do you need an extra boost of energy to support your wellness goals this spring? Try Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. That's what I'm on, because I'm trying to get back in the gym after my little ankle injury, and everything that kind of gave me a little bit of a setback. I'm trying to get back in the gym. 30 grams of protein for a meal that's ready in 2 minutes is money. Is money. With 34 plus chef prepared, dietitian approved weekly options, there's always something new to try. Plus, you can round out your meal and replenish your snack supply with an assortment of 45 add-ons: pancakes, bacon and cheddar, egg bites, potato, bacon and eggs, beverage options, cold pressed juices, shakes, smoothies. Looking to pack on more protein, conveniently add on filling options like salmon fillet or chicken wings. Factor meal to support your dietary goals any time of the day is the way to go. Head over to factormeals.com/runitback50 and use the code runitback50 to get 50% off your first box. That's factormeals.com/runitback50 and use the promo code runitback50 to get 50% off your first box. Freshly cooked meals delivered to your door for as little as $11 a meal. You can't beat that. It's cheaper than driving through the McDonald's drive-thru, man. Let's go. Let's get it, man. Run It Back Nation. We're doing healthy things, man. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Shout out to Factor Meals for sponsoring the show. Let's get back to business, all right? Nick Nurse. We got 2 articles here, okay? Here we go. Let's bring it up here. As the Sixers get set to interview Nick Nurse, this is from Liberty Ballers, by the way. As the Sixers get ready to interview Nick Nurse, we asked Raptors HQ for some intel. Let me get this comment up off the screen real quick. Yeah. There we go. As the Sixers get set to interview Nick Nurse, we asked Raptors HQ for some intel. And this is pretty interesting, man. This is written by Paul Hudrick. Shout out to Paul Hudrick. Follow him on Twitter. It was reported on Thursday night the Sixers will interview Toronto Raptors head coach Nick Nurse. Okay. He asked Josh Kern from Raptors HQ to help us learn a little bit more about Nick Nurse. Let's all learn together. Here's what he asked him. As Joel Embiid can attest, Nick Nurse has a knack for whipping up creative and aggressive defensive schemes. What do you think his biggest strengths and weaknesses are? And Josh Kent said Embiid nailed it there. Nurse's defensive schemes are aggressive as all heck. And as Joel himself said earlier this year, somewhat, that's a big word, pejoratively? Damn, bro. You guys ever see the 40-Year-Old Virgin when Kevin Hart's like, hey, you're using big words. Since I don't know what they mean, I'm going to take it as disrespect. Anyway, pejoratively. Holy hell. But that doesn't make it any less true. Nurse is great at developing schemes that limit an opposing team's best player, such as the box and one he deployed against Steph Curry in the 2019 finals. I think the Sixers need help with that. I mean, we've let teams' number one options just go absolutely apeshit on us and never adjusted, giving up 11 threes to Zach LaVine in that one game against the Bulls, giving up 41 points to CJ McCollum. Like, you would see a player just basically ball screen wide open. No, and the second half we would do the same thing. There was no adjustment. There was no nothing. So that makes me, feel good about a potential Nick Nurse. Nurse is also capable of tweaking things to suit his personnel. Notably, the past 2 seasons, as the team lacked shooting depth, they focused more on creating turnovers and getting offensive rebounds to generate extra possessions. Did you just tell me that a coach that could potentially coach the Philadelphia 76ers focused on getting offensive rebounds? The Sixers were so bad at rebounding, the past couple of seasons. It got to the point where you just had to point the finger at the coach. You had to. It was impossible not to. How could an NBA team be that bad at rebounding? So I like that. But his base defense, collapse into the paint, limit shots at the rim, scramble back hard to close out on shooters hasn't changed, and that shows a streak of stubbornness that I think is one of Nurse's weaknesses, okay? He's stubborn, okay? Aren't all guys at that level stubborn? Yeah, but even just that base defensive scheme I like, and that's what the Raptors were always good at. That's what the Raptors were good at against the Sixers in those playoff runs where they would shut down Embiid and hold him to 1 point, or he had a 0-point game against the Raptors. They were so good at crashing on him and then flying back out to the perimeter, not giving you any time to get off an open three. And a lot of that was Nick Nurse's scheme. A lot of that was the fact that they have a bunch of 6'10", young athletic freaks. So the Sixers roster or players that he chose to play have a lot to do with that. Right? Nick Nurse, with this base defense, I guarantee you, would not sit around and play George Niang in the third quarter of a big-time playoff game and watch him get destroyed on the defensive end. And those that don't really watch the game intently, here's what I'm saying. As soon as George Niang comes in the game, he needed help defensively, and that left shooter's wide open. I saw it so many times. You would end up with George Niang on Jaylen Brown. Embiid had to immediately come over and double, and the Celtics got a wide open three out of it. I'm sorry. George Niang's a nice guy. You can't play him in the playoffs in the NBA. You absolutely can't. A lot, other players like PJ Tucker, the fact that Doc was playing Montrezl Harrell for the amount of time that he was playing him, the fact that he would go George Niang, Tobias Harris as a 4-5, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. Nick Nurse, with the scheme that he likes to run and his just outlook on how he wants his defense to be on his NBA team, there's just no way he would sit out there and play those guys. You know what I mean? As for why his players might have been tired, this might be stubbornness too, but it takes an awful lot to earn Nick Nurse's trust. And if a player doesn't have it, that player is going to have a very short leash and will likely have extended stints in the doghouse. So according to this guy, he holds players accountable, and he requires a certain level of fitness from his players. Again, because he wants to run that defensive scheme. He wants you to be able to crash quickly and get back out to the three-point line quickly. You got to be in certain shape to play under Nick Nurse. I like that too. That's probably not what James Harden wants to hear. I like that for Joel Embiid because he's looked gassed and slow and out of shape his whole career so far. But, he's a giant, so who knows? Can he even really, get into that kind of shape to play that kind of... It's tough, too, to guard the perimeter with a guy like Joel in today's NBA, Teams can really just run ball screens, and he has to go from the paint all the way out to the three-point line and then retreat. And I think he does a good job for his size, but, I don't really know what to say about that. What ultimately led to Nurse being fired? He said the main reason was the team didn't meet expectations. And yeah, they didn't. And the Toronto Raptors, did they have a winning roster? Absolutely not. If they would have followed up their 48-win season with 50 wins and more competitive postseason, I think Nurse would still be there. But it was a frustrating season for everyone. And it showed but it was a frustrating season for everyone involved, and it showed no more so than when Nurse unprompted started speculating about his own future in March. Nurse didn't do the typical thank you Toronto thing after his firing, and no Raptors player has publicly said a word about his firing. I guess that's, something to be a little bit concerned about. What are the relationships like with the players and Nick Nurse? Maybe they weren't great. Maybe he's really hard on his players and demands certain things and isn't good at kind of being demanding and being respected at the same time. Fan reaction was kind of mixed. It was clear something wasn't working and some sort of change was needed, but it also not clear that moving on from a championship coach was necessarily the right sort of change. I go back and forth all the time, roster versus coach and things like that. And just from an outside perspective, I would say that Nick Nurse was fired as a result of the roster flat out not being good enough. He just won a championship when the roster was good enough. Budenholzer, same situation, I think. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that the Sixers hired a coach that hadn't won since 2008. And there's other teams firing coaches who have won championships just in the past couple of years. I like Nick Nurse, man. I really do. I really do. Is there a player you think Nick Nurse would want to try and pry from the Raptors to bring here if he got the job? If Nick Nurse gets the job, how would he pry a Raptors player to Philly? I think the guy says, I think pretty much every team wants OG Anunoby, right? Is the ultimate 3-and-D guy who doesn't need the ball in his hands to make a big impact. I would hate to see it, and I'm not sure how it would happen, but Anunoby would be a perfect fit in Philly. Yeah, I don't think that's even possible, but I agree with that. In a weird way, Sixers fans probably feel like they know Nurse as well as any opposing head coach with the battles this team's had over the years. Is there something about Nurse that maybe isn't known or appreciated outside of Toronto? Seeing Nurse up close the past couple of years, I find him to be a bit of an enigma. He's funny and seems personable and down to earth most of the time. His love of music, including regular appearances on stage with the Arkles, I don't know who that is, and his embrace of Canada and Toronto. The guy made a guest appearance on a TV show, and Canadian institution endeared him to fans. There's a hint of ego that percolates around him that makes you wonder, does he do all these things because he's down to earth and just having a good time, or does he do it because he likes the attention? I think that's a little bit of a reach right there. Basically, you're going to get ego with anybody on this level, and you're going to get ego with anybody whose system has just won a championship within the past couple of years. You got the Doc Rivers ego. His system won a championship 15 years ago, and he still has an ego and thinks that that's how you should be running a team. So I don't think I'm worried about a Nick Nurse ego. I think I really like what he can do, bringing a defensive mind to a team, focusing on being in shape, focusing on let's build from the inside out, let's build from the fundamentals inside out, let's rebound, play defense, crash the boards, crash on defense in the paint, and then fly back out to the three-point line. You got to be in shape to be able to do that. I need you to be in shape when the season starts, so let's get on the line and run some damn suicides. And if you can't do it, you're not going to play. So I like it. I like it. I hope I just sold to you Nick Nurse to the Sixers. That's what I was trying to do. The case for and against Nick Nurse as Sixers head coach. Here's another article I don't really want to read because it's going to just be redundant for the one that I just read. But yeah, that's my take on Nick Nurse to Philly. That's my take on James Harden having possibly a $200 million contract coming his way from, hopefully, a team not named the Philadelphia 76ers. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Let's go to the chat. Nick says Woj bomb. Nick, you're not trolling because you're my dude, Nick. Nick, it better be a bomb, Nick. Nick, you wouldn't do this to me, would you? You wouldn't do this to me, would you? Nurse is a candidate for the Bucks. Well, I mean, he's going to be a candidate for everyone, isn't he? All right, let's go over to Twitter, Woj. Twitter.com. Adrian Wojnarowski. Okay. What you got, Woj? What you got? ESPN sources. The Bucks are narrowing group of top candidates in franchise's head coaching search. Nick Nurse, Golden State assistant Kenny Atkinson, and Toronto assistant Adrian Griffin. These coaches will be part of final conversations with Milwaukee leadership this week. Damn it! Damn it. Because if you are Nick Nurse and you're looking at roster construction, what's the quickest way for me to get back into the playoffs, for me to get back deep into the playoffs? What's the quickest way for me to get back to possibly winning championships? I think you're taking Giannis, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, all those boys. I think if you're Nick Nurse, that's a very appealing job opportunity. You know, I think the Sixers, with the situation they are in right now, are going to have a tough job selling this situation to Nick Nurse when there's a situation like that out there. Especially with the James Harden thing up in the air. I think that's going to be the problem. Because James Harden, rumored, just had the coach fired. So, you know, Nurse could be looking at it and saying, do I want to coach James Harden? Nurse looms prominently in Phoenix and Philadelphia searches, too, sources say. Yeah, of course he does. I mean, Nick Nurse is any team that wants to hire a head coach right now, and Nick Nurse is going to be on the top of the list. What I'm saying is, if he's going to look at Phoenix, if he's going to look at Milwaukee, and he's going to look at Philly, he could look at Philly and say, you know, James Harden didn't look good in the playoffs. Joel Embiid didn't look good in the playoffs. And then James Harden came out here and it's rumored that basically said he didn't want to play under Doc Rivers and kind of blamed everything on Doc Rivers. And Daryl Morey kind of did whatever James Harden wanted, got Doc Rivers out of here. Could Nick Nurse say, a little bit of an ego there that I don't think I want to deal with? A little bit of an ego there that I don't think I want to deal with. I think Nick Nurse could say that about the 76ers. I think if you're asking me, does Nick Nurse choose between the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Phoenix Suns? I think Nick Nurse picks Milwaukee. The Sixers would have to do something drastically right now for it to be a little bit more appealing to him. I think so. We'll see, though. Man. We'll see. But that's definitely an interesting one, man. It's definitely an interesting one, Woj. Thanks for the Woj bomb. Before I get up out of here, we will just check in on the NBA Central. Look at what else is going on. Read the chat, hang out, and then I'll be on my way. I got to mow my grass. All right. Lakers would have to lose Roy Hachimura in order to sign Kyrie Irving. Yeah, there was a thing yesterday or the day before-ish that basically said Kyrie could go to L.A. The Kyrie thing is just insane, man. It's just insane. Just such a talented player. Such an unbelievable one-on-one basketball talent. Maybe the most skilled basketball player of all time, offensively. He might be the most skilled offensive basketball player I've ever seen with my own two eyes. Straight up skill-wise. I'm not talking winning mentality. I'm not talking teammate. I'm not talking accomplishments. But he just doesn't really make a team better. He doesn't make a team better. You just saw what happened in Dallas. They were literally worse after adding Kyrie Irving. And I got Sixers fans every day now saying, we got to go sign Kyrie. I'm not seeing it. I think you need to stay far, far away from Kyrie Irving if you're Philadelphia. I think you need to stay far away from Kyrie Irving. Teams need to get back to building teams the right way. We got to stop. We've been star hunting since Brett Brown and Elton Brand sat up in that press conference and said that dumbass shit. We are star hunting. We are using all of our assets to go get stars. Oh, you did a real good job, didn't you? You ended up with Tobias Harris on a $180 million contract. That's what you did, star hunting. Stay away from Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving has never done anything in the NBA without LeBron James. I need you to hear me clearly. And I mean this. Kyrie Irving has never done anything in the NBA without LeBron James. He's not a leader. He's a bucket, and that's it. One night he'll give you the most efficient 50-point game of all time. The next night he'll be 2 for 17. And then 3 weeks after that, he'll go to his sister's birthday party across the country and just take time off from working. You can't do it. Not because Kyrie Irving's not a great scorer. I know what you guys are saying, and you guys keep telling me too, at least he would show up in the playoffs. He would, if he's healthy, and if he wants to. But the 76ers need a leader. We do not have a game-controlling leader. That's why Kyrie worked so well with LeBron James in Cleveland. LeBron was the leader. Kyrie was just, okay, we need a bucket, go get it. I remember a specific play in Cleveland where Kyrie ran a play, did not hit the skip pass into the corner for the wide open three. LeBron James was visibly upset, came back down the floor the next possession, ran the same play, and LeBron made the right pass into the corner for the wide open three. You need a leader who can make your team better, and then you need to add a Kyrie Irving. Adding Kyrie Irving to this disaster is not going to make anything better. Rick Rude, that's what we need. We don't need a leader. Your opinions right now are dense. DeRozan, Kyrie, or Damian Lillard, we won't win without a second star. What has DeMar DeRozan ever won? What has Damian Lillard ever won? What has Kyrie Irving without LeBron James ever won? Nothing. He imploded the Boston Celtics when he was there. He imploded the Brooklyn Nets when he was there. And you want him to come to this disaster class of an organization, and you think that's going to be a good thing? Come on, bro. Come on, man. What has Kyrie Irving showed you guys that makes you think he's going to change this franchise? You got to think outside of just scoring. You got to think outside of just making shots on a basketball court. Show me what he's done on an NBA team. You're saying clutch in the chat. You're saying everything else. What has he done? Show me what he's done. When has he been clutch in the playoffs? Outside of the one shot next to LeBron James against the Warriors. What has he done? I can't go Kyrie, man. But I respect all of your opinions. You would need a leader first, and you would need to add Kyrie Irving as a second option. That's the only way for Kyrie Irving to work. And they thought it was going to work in Dallas. And that didn't even work. That was terrible. That's all I'm saying. The Sixers need a leader. Where are they going to get it? I don't know. I don't think it's James Harden. Sadly, I don't think it's Joel Embiid. I think Tyrese Maxey's too young. But maybe a coach like a Nick Nurse can turn Joel Embiid into that. Maybe he can. Maybe he can, man. Maybe he can. But thanks for your opinions on that Kyrie thing, because that made for a perfect YouTube clip. Hey, man. Thanks for tuning in to Lunchtime Live today. We'll be here every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 12 o'clock. All off-season long. Shout out to Factor Meals for sponsoring the show. Go to factormeals.com/runitback50. Use the promo code runitback50 to get 50% off your first box. Freshly cooked meals delivered to your doorstep for as little as $11 a meal. You pop it in a microwave and you're healthy. It's a great option. Do it. Yeah, that's all I got, man. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow right here at 12 o'clock. Come on back. Peace.